Okay, now let's stop sharing. So bear with me if I make a screwball it, okay? Right, the welcome one, that's up anyway. There's very little that we want to be saying this week. Let me go into page. Yeah. First of all, memberships for all of us. Their memberships are due for renewal January 2021. Okay. So as you can see here written down, the fees they will remain unchanged again. 45 quid for everyone in employment, 25 quid everyone else. Now our preferred option is PayPal through the website. There's a link on the website. Okay. And for any of those not able, who do not have a PayPal account, please a check made payable, and then we'll sort that. Let us know who has to pay by check, and we'll let you know where to send it. Is that okay?
Yep.
But I'm hoping now everyone will choose or will be able to work with PayPal. It makes it so much easier for us. Also, guys, when we're renewing your membership, please also a short email with your up-to-date telephone information, because telephone numbers change, emails change, especially if you're being hacked, all kinds of stuff happens. We would like your telephone number, name, telephone number, email, and the current grade, beginner, intermediate, or advanced. A quick email to the Boyle Camera Club info@gmail.com, that would suffice. That'll be enough. That's cool. That's all we need. So for tonight now, in a few minutes, we're going to have Harry Reynolds. He's a retired teacher, a member of Malahide Camera Club, and a longtime friend. And he is going to take us through Photoshop and this is only how he would do it. There are multiple ways to do it, but we might find something new. So he's going to show us how he would take his processing from camera to exhibition standard. Okay, so he's going to choose 2 pictures. I don't know what 2 he's going to choose, but there will be a question and answer at the end. But also feel free, if you need him to stop or you want him to ask him a question in the middle, at any time, keep it short and simple. He has absolutely no problem with that. Okay, just not everyone speak at the one time. That goes without saying. So I'll shut up, I promise. Then also, after that, we're going to have the monthly motivation, which I reckon is going to be pretty quick. So we might hang on to Harry for a little bit longer. Don't worry about, well, I hope he'll stay a little bit longer. But anyway, monthly motivation, as we all know, it was self-portrait. Bit of a tricky one for some, especially me. And Marty's going to judge that later on. Okay, guys? We'll hold that off for next month, because next month's this month's motivation, okay, coming ahead, is going to be shapes. Shapes. It's not just go out and take a square. Make it interesting. Throw some light on it. Do it without shadows. Use your imagination. Be creative. Have a ball with it. Just have fun. Get back to what we're all wanted when we started out with the camera, is to have a bit of fun and enjoy doing whatever it is we're shooting. So a little bit out of the ordinary. It doesn't have to be very difficult or very photoshopped, whatever, but not just take a picture of a cardboard box. Give us a bit more. Just try yourself to do a little bit more. Okay. I'll pop this up, but everyone knows this already. The email address, Boyle Camera Club info@gmail.com. Text services, anyone uses it, and we all know we have the Facebook website. Have a look and try and keep, I'm talking to myself here, maybe try and keep informed on what's going on the website. I know it's not always easy to find the time to jump in there, but yeah, let's all try and make a little bit more of an effort. Speaking mainly to myself here, guys.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to unshare that now. Boom, boom, boom. Now we're all back. So we've got a few more minutes. minutes before Harry's gonna drop in. So anything nice to say, to do, to scream, or even something not nice? Sing a song. No, nobody wants to sing a song. What is like? Right. Have you all got your letter written for Christmas for Santa?
Oh yes, definitely.
Good man. Well, my 8-year-old only
I'd like to raise one point, Bernie, which is that in the summer we had a beautifully presented exhibition, an online exhibition, and it was never mentioned in any of the club meetings at all as to what happened at that, and no comment in it at all. And I just wondered what the outcome was, if any. Were there any sales, for example?
Oh, I think we did mention this at a previous one, if I'm not mistaken. Joe, Darrell, would you guys know more on that?
Yeah, it was up for 2 months online. I think it's still up there, actually.
Yeah, I think so too.
I haven't taken it down.
It was due to finish at the end of September, but I think it's still up there. It was beautifully done, I must admit. Whoever presented it, it was very good.
Well, you can thank Dara for getting that organised.
Oh, thanks, Dara.
But I wouldn't expect too many sales now from a beautiful one, because
there's one sale, that's all. Just the one that I know of, anyway. Yeah.
Was it publicised at all, apart from amongst ourselves?
It would have been, it would have been pushed out there on Facebook usually, and that's all we could do, really, you know.
And I think I've seen it on Boyle Today, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, Boyle Today would be a good place, because other members of the public see it.
You know, unless you keep doing it, maybe it wasn't done. It should have been repeated again, maybe a few times. But.
Yeah, it was published to any Boyle specific forums I knew about. So Boyle Today, anywhere else, any of those kind of Boyle type groups.
Dara would have some. He might have some statistics on how many people looked at it. Would you? You might have. Maybe
I could go and find out. I don't know exactly, but I'll have a look and come back to you on that.
Wasn't a very clever time of the year to have it on with the lockdown on and so on. It was tricky, wasn't it, to publicise it or get interest in it?
Yeah, but
look, we're all only learning to cope with this flaming lockdown and what to do and how best to do it. So hopefully we'll never have to do it again.
No,
it's the thing. Unless you're really active on social media constantly and pushing it out, and this is all new to us. So you know.
Yes. Plenty more other things going on as well.
It was, and I've seen one other online that I know of, that I came across exhibition, something similar to ours, and it was an English one. I think I put it up on the Facebook page actually for people to look at. I put a link up there on the Facebook page. So that was the English version of their exhibition. So you know, it was good photography, but we had good stuff as well, you know.
Yes. Well, there were some very good entries, I must say.
It was lovely to look at it. I think it was brilliant done.
It was clever, wasn't it? The app that we used for that, Dara.
Thanks whoever put it together, everyone that put it together, because it was brilliant. It was very entertaining.
Yeah, and it was great that something went ahead.
Yeah, it was lovely.
You know, rather than just being scuppered all together. It was really nice. Yeah. And like we said, it's still up there, so who knows?
It is. I just would like to say congratulations from Dara the way he did it, because the Westport Arts Festival, their exhibition followed exactly the same format, and for the scale of an arts festival to use exactly the same as what we'd already done, we launched ours I think about 2 weeks before the Festival launched, so we already had such a high quality exhibition out before a major arts festival exhibition. So nicely done, Dara.
Oh, well done, Dara. Blue bus, Dara.
Yeah.
As I actually looked at the Boyle Arts Festival one, and I wasn't that impressed with it actually.
No.
No.
I didn't even see it.
Well, I'd like to say well done to whoever put it together, because really it was rather splendidly put together. It really was.
Margaret, we can barely hear you.
Oh, right. Okay. Is that better?
That's much better. Yeah.
Okay. I would like to reiterate what Matthew said, and say that it really was beautifully put together.
You're moving back away from the Speaker again, girl.
Okay, right. Anyway, that's it.
Thanks, Margaret. How's your mum doing?
She's doing fine, thanks very much.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, doing really well, thanks.
Good to hear. Right. Any chance, any sign of Harry trying to get in there yet, Darryl?
He's there, yeah.
Okay,
Harry
where
is
is
there.
he?
Hi, Bernie.
Oh, hi, Harry. Where are you there? I can't see you. Hold on. I'll have to move over. Where are we?
Reduce the size of your...
Yeah. I see you there, Harry. How are things?
Good, very good indeed.
Great stuff. We're looking forward to your chat tonight. We're looking forward to be able to chat. Now, I've told them we're allowed to questions and answers afterwards, but I also said that, as you said, it's okay to interject now and again.
Absolutely, because it's much easier to work with you when I know exactly what you're thinking.
Great. Okay. So we're recording this now, Harry.
Okay, so no problem.
And okay, so everyone's ready to rock and roll?
Will we mute our mics for now, will we?
Well, no, you don't have to. Just be quiet until unless you have a thing. Unless you have a question, you want to be able to interact with Harry. That's no problem. Yeah. And so, Dara, can you or Harry, are you okay now? Can you share your screen there?
I can indeed, yeah.
Great stuff.
Do you see my screen now?
You do?
Yeah.
You do, okay. All right, so before I start, I suppose Bernie's probably told you a little bit about me. I'm a founding member of Malahide Camera Club since 1995, and I've been involved on and off ever since. I suppose my interest in photography went back even before that, maybe 10 years before that. I was always looking for something to join, and I've spent most of the years ever since then kind of enjoying photography and just experimenting with different things. I've been doing classes with the likes of Bernie and a few other people from Malahide Camera Club and a few private people over the years, about the last 8 years on a weekly basis. About 15 people per week. And so most of the things that come up, I kind of can deal with them. I use Photoshop myself. I'm fairly familiar with Lightroom, but the camera raw with Photoshop is basically the same as Lightroom anyway. So until I had a quick look at your website tonight, I was going to do something different. I was going to process a raw landscape, maybe do a JPEG processing on a portrait, and maybe do something about replacing backgrounds. But I see I'm supposed to be scheduled to do 2 raw images. Look, I'll take it, and if you feel I'm going in the wrong direction, just shout at me. I'm fairly adaptable, and I don't mind being interrupted.
Work with what you had planned, Harry.
Okay, Bernie. Well, I'll just show you during lockdown. This is what I'm doing during lockdown. For the last 7 weeks of lockdown, I've been taking 2 shots every week. One on a general favorite kind of image, and then the other one is a theme I set for a Facebook group I have. And so these are some of the images that I have been working on in the last 6 or 7 weeks. Kind of have a slightly creative streak to me. That's a 13 image photo merge. When it came out as to be printed, it was 93 inches long. And it was over 1,000 megabytes in size. And it's just my local area here, a few hundred yards from where I live. Some experimental stuff. We had, one of our themes was glass. I like the creative end of things. That's a mandala of a banana. And again, that's local Malahide here. just a little bead on or a little string on a Christmas bag that I turned into kind of a moon image. And this was last week in Malahide here, down in the local castle. And one of our other themes was reflections. And there's another one of the morning shots. I'll process something like that today. And just there during the week, I took this image. Our theme was cutlery. So this was just a slightly lit knife, and then it turned into a pencil sketch and then turned into a triptych. So that's the kind of stuff I like doing. And so we'll have a look here at what I have. This is a bridge, which would be my normal way of doing photographs, seeing what I have. So I'll do this one here first. So opening it in RAW. Now I'm presuming that you're able to do all of, or you know how to do these things. And if not, just shout. So this would be the raw unprocessed image. No, that's, so toggle back here now to, and that's it, untouched. Okay, so my general approach would be to do two things first always. I go down to detail, which is all about sharpening. And I've mine preset in RAW. So if I hold down the Alt button and I have my radius at 1, just 1 pixel of sharpening, the detail is the default 25, and the masking, what we do is you hold down your Alt button and then you drag this slider, and everything that's white is going to be sharpened and anything that's black is not. So if I just want the tree and the seat to be sharpened, I pull that across there. Now I want the roadway in there to be sharp as well, so I'll drop it there. And I leave the rest at default. Then I go down to optics, and I will always remove chromatic aberration and profile corrections. That's it without it being done. And as you can see, the picture jumps because of barrel distortion and things like that. And it always affects the histogram. So that's why I do that among my first things. So a simple approach would be to click auto and see what Photoshop suggests. And it's not bad, you know, so you can leave it there as a starter, or you can switch it off and say, I'll try and do that for myself. And if I do it for myself, I'll probably go into basics. And keeping an eye on the histogram, as you can see, there is something blown out in the histogram. These two little rectangles up here tell me that the whites are blown out here, but the blacks are okay. So we can see here in this where the blown out part is. So anything I use down along here on the right-hand side will affect the whole photograph. And anything I use out here on the edge will be a kind of a localized effect. So this blown out area here behind the tree is a localized effect. So if I just take that adjustment brush and I switch on my mask option, and that just shows me where I am working. And I just paint in there. Now I can see that that's where I'm painting. I'm going to bring that feather up a little bit just to soften that. Now I switch off my mask. And what I do then is I adjust that. They're highlights. So I'll try bringing the highlights down first. That's that sorted. Now if I look at my histogram, I can see that the whites are okay. I could have brought the exposure down a tiny little bit. I could have brought the whites down, but they are highlights. There's another little bit there. So if I bring the whites down a little bit as well, that should take care of that, and definitely bringing the highlights down well. So if I paint that little area there and that area there, that takes care of them. So when I have my brush used, I get a little dot there beside me to tell it I've done something on that. So I just go back up to this thing, which is called the edit button, and I click on the edit button and I'm out of my brush. If I ever want to go back into that brush, I just collect it again and I see I have a pin here, and I can click on that pin, and by just holding my mouse over it, it tells me where I've already adjusted. So I'm going to go out of that again. Now that I don't have any blown out parts and the blacks are okay, I'm just going to look at this from the point of view of what exposure I'd like. So I just brighten it a little bit. Now I would like the path to be a bit brighter and for the eye to be led in with a little bit brighter on the path. So I'll go back to my adjustment brush. I'll click on my mask option just to show where I'm working. I'll leave the feather around the same. The flow, I hope you know about opacity and flow. The flow is kind of the percentage of strength that's going to be on the brush. And if I have it at 50, obviously, if I do it twice, then the thing is completely done. If I bring it down there and I just brush this in now, you'll see that this pathway here is going to be brushed in. If I overdo it, I just go up here to the top and click on the eraser. And I can bring my feather down on the eraser and just say, I've gone over the path there. And I just take that off that. Right, so that tidies that up. So I go back in now and I'm just going to knock off my mask because I know where I'm working. And now I will bring the exposure on that area up there a little bit. You can see the path is brightening up a little bit. I can take out the shadows a little bit, maybe a little bit more on the exposure. And that gives me a slight bit of brightness leading in there. So I'm finished with that. I'm going to go back to my edit button and click out again. So now if I go back into my brush, I'll find that I have a pin down here. And so I can go back into that anytime I want to. And there's my first pin up here in the trees. So going out of that then, now one of the things I would like to do there is to bring up the color in the central area. So I have a few options. I might go down to the color mixer. And the color mixer, I have two ways of doing it. I can do it just with the color, or I can do it with the hue, saturation, and luminance, which is the one I prefer to use. So if I, just as an example, the central area here, there are yellows and oranges in it, obviously. So if I change the luminance in that, you can see that that changes that, but it changes the luminance in the whole picture because it's down this area here, which is for global things. And if I go to the oranges, that deepens the color in that. Now, I could have a look at the saturation in these as well. And I could bring them up a little bit and see yellows mainly. And that gives me a little bit more color in the central area there. Having changed the luminance of those, I now have a problem back in the sky. So I can go out of my color mixer and go up to my brush again. And I can just take my mask and I can just paint where that spot is, there and there. And I can just take that exposure. I'll take off the mask so you can see where it is. And just take that exposure or even the highlights down again. I'll take the exposure down a little bit too. Need to brush that one there. The exposure is down too far now, as you can see the effect. Anything you do in Photoshop, it's only done properly really if you can't see the effect, but you know it is there. That area tidied up. Now we can see keeping an eye on the histogram all the time. Now, one of the things I would need to do is to straighten the horizon a little bit. I could do that now, or I could do it later on. I tend to do it later on when I have my whole image in and I'll decide what to do with it. I can crop here, and if I want to crop here, I can do it there, and I can just pick, a ratio here that I like. So if I wanted 16:9, letterbox one, I would choose that. I'm not going to crop here. If you don't mind, I would prefer to do it later on. Now, one of the beautiful new things in, well, it's not quite new, I suppose, is this thing down here called calibration. Now, calibration is, and we're used to the terms, you know, with regard to calibrating our monitors and things like that. So it's really about getting the colors right. And this area here allows you to play with the colors. And you should always experiment. You mightn't like it, but you can always reset it. So what this means here is, I suppose, basically, every pixel has got red, green, and blue in it. And what's this allowing us to do here is to adjust the red or the green or the blue of every pixel in the image. So for instance, if we took the red pixel out of anything, it doesn't, even inside this green here, there is red. Inside in this blue up here, there is red. Inside in this yellow here, there is red. So we can change that red. And as you can see, you can change it to yellow, or you can bring it back the other way and start making it more magenta. Now, I'm just saying experiment with it, not necessarily do it, but experiment with it because it may improve your photograph or it may not. If you don't like it, just go over to where the number is, like -7 there, and you can highlight that and simply put 0 back in there, or you can double click on the slider and it will come back in. If you adjust that, obviously you can still adjust the saturation of the color. And the saturation of that color actually, if I bring that red back, is nice. I like that extra bit of depth in the color there. Go down to the green part of each pixel and you can see what's happening there. I don't particularly like that, so I'm just going to make that back at 0. And having a look at the blue parts, oh, it doesn't help. No, that extra bit there is nice. So I'm getting a lot more color now into the center. Now, finally, I might, leaving that at that, if I go back out here, I might just try and brighten up those trees a little bit. So I'm going to use the graduated filter and drag it in here like this. But I just want it on the trees. So I don't want it over here on the right-hand side on the sky. So I can go to my eraser and I can, if I make my eraser a little bit bigger, I can brush the sky out of that. You'll see this you can see that the mask is over the trees, but it's not now over this area here. So taking off my mask, and I can now just brighten up those trees a little bit. Take up the shadows a little bit. Maybe just take up the exposure just a tiny little bit, bring a little bit of brightness into the sky. Okay. Now, another thing I would like to do is to have a look at, it was a frosty morning, and it'd be nice to try and bring that out a little bit. So we could maybe use the same method there. We could try this. We could bring that up along there and go for texture. And texture will bring out the detail. Whereas if you use, we often use clarity to bring out detail, but clarity will affect a lot of other things as well. Now you might like the clarity. I prefer to go for the texture because it doesn't affect, it brings out the texture, but doesn't affect the exposure. Whereas if you change the sliders in clarity, you'll see the histogram is changing dramatically. So that brings out more detail there. And just click back to the edit button. And then if I wanted to save it, I would click this button up here and it would be saved as a JPEG beside my raw file. But for tonight, I'll just open it and work on it. Now, before I go any further, is there anything anybody would like me to do to that?
Anything, guys?
or any question about it before we go out of the raw file into the JPEG?
And just bear in mind, guys, for those who are using Lightroom, this is the exact same format in Lightroom.
Okay, so we'll open it up then. Now, when you're working on a JPEG image, getting it ready for a print. Oh, it's after opening twice. Okay. Now, there are a number of things you should do. You should crop. You should resize it. You should maybe just check the histogram once more after doing all that cropping and resizing that everything is okay. Then make any repairs in the job, like cloning or the spot healing brush. Then you should dodge or burn any area that's necessary. And sometimes it's nice to add a vignette. And finally, you would frame your subject by putting a border on it. And the very last thing you do is sharpen. So those are about 9 things I would always do to an image that was going for print. So I'm going to start, as I said there, but the first thing is to crop. So my crop tool is over here. Now, I have a tendency to have my crops preset. And if you wanted to preset your crops, you could just simply go up here and go to, in here, and go to W by H by resolution. Click in there, and that allows you to put any number in there for the width. And let's say I wanted to do 16 inches wide. I'll put in 16 IN. I'm going to crop. This looks like it might make a nice letterbox. So we'll go for 9 inches and 9 IN. Sorry, I use inches rather than centimeters. And it has to be 300 pixels per inch, not 3000, 300. And just make sure that this item here is pixels per inch and not pixels per centimeter. So that's what it will look like. I can move that around then. While I'm doing that, obviously, I must try and level that off. So I go to the straighten tool here, and I would imagine the horizon is along there somewhere. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad. Now, if I wanted to include, a bigger part of the picture, I can go outside, and I've gone outside the image. So Photoshop has given us this option of content aware. So Photoshop will read what's around it and fill in that gap. So I'm going to do that just to extend the image. Okay, so we now have the image to make in the shape we like it. And because I cropped with specific sizes, I have it in the size I want. So you see where I have the 16 by 9 by 30, I can do a drop-down menu there, and I can say new crop preset. Those numbers will come into it, and I can save that. And the next time I go back in there, that will be in there. There it is. All right. So I can automatically go back to that one the next time if I want to keep all my images the same. My preferences is for square images is 11.5 by 11.5 because I add a 1/2 inch border, 15.5 by 11.5 because the maximum size allowed by our club is 16 by 12. And I'll get that by adding a 1/2 inch border. And if I wanted to do a 16 by 9, I would actually crop it at 15.5 by 8.5. And then I'd add a 1/2 inch border to that. And for me,
can I jump in there, please?
Yes, of course.
Harry?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you had an 1/2 inch, if you had an 1/2 inch border, I'm assuming the border is 1/2 inch wide, top and bottom, and left and right.
No, it'll be it'll be 1/4 inch top and bottom, left and right.
Okay, that's what was confusing me.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay. Thanks, Marty. So that would be my way of doing it. Now, so we click OK there, that's done. If you didn't do your own kind of sizes, then you would always need to go back and do image size. And just make sure that you adjust that and make, obviously with this little link here, if I put in 15.5 there now, for instance, my other one will change to 8.719 because that's the proportion that's been maintained. It's at 300 pixels per inch. I'm just going to put it back where it was, or just cancel it. So we leave it there at that. Now, next job then would be to having a look at the histogram, make sure everything is still okay. There's no blacks too black, there are no whites too white, so it seems to be okay. Now, working on from there, I'll have a look at the image and see if there's anything I need to repair in the image. And the repair tools are over here. You have the spot healing tool, the healing brush, the patch tool, these 5 here, and then you have the clone tool as well. The clone tool would probably be the most popular. So to do something like that, I would always enlarge my image. That's with Control and plus, and drag it around and see, maybe we get rid of those things there. So using the spot healing brush, with the spot healing brush, all you got to do is just click and drag a tiny little bit and it will get rid of it. Like that. I'm not going to do them all, but that's the way we work. Or just check anything else. Generally not too bad. Or the alternative is the cloning tool. And to the cloning tool, you have to use the Alt button to pick an area and then follow it through. So if I want to clone that one with something from here, Alt and click, and in we go. There we go. If I want to do it along a line like that, I would just click here and I just make sure I'm keeping in line with it and then follow it through. Now, so Control 0 brings my image back out. So let's say I've repaired my image. Now I might like to dodge and burn some areas. I might like to just brighten that seat on its own. Now, my way of dodging and burning is not to use the dodge tool and the burn tool over here. At this stage, they're a bit old hat and they have moved, things have moved on in Photoshop. So what I would do is I would go to my layers palette and I'd add in a brand new empty layer. And I'll go over here to edit and I'll fill that with 50% and my drop 50% gray at normal mode and 100%. And I'll change that blend mode, which is normal, and I'll change it to overlay. So we can see the image perfectly well through it. Now, what this means is that if we paint that gray layer with black, we darken things. In other words, we burn them. And if we paint it with the white brush and white paint, we lighten it. So we dodge it. So if I want to dodge that, I'm going to brighten that. So I'm going to go in closer, Control plus plus, and get my seat there and get my white paint, my normal brush. Now I work always with the mode and the brush is normal, the opacity always at 100%, and I just change the flow. And if I bring the flow down low, and you'd always be working with a flow at around 4 or 5. So if I wanted to just brighten up that, now I'm just going to have a look at my brush, and my brush is hard. So I'm going to soften the brush, bring it down low, and I'm using my soft round brush. So I'm just going to paint that with the white. And that'll raise that and bring out a little bit of detail in it. And if I want to bring out extra detail, I can up the flow, or I can just simply go back over it again, and you can see it's coming out there. I don't want to overdo it. Might like to bring up a little bit of that lightness that's in there. Take the light in there and bring it up a little bit. That brightens that. Okay, maybe just along the back of the seat there. Now, this is a very good way as well for adding contrast. And I would use this, for instance, even in flowers, on the veins and flowers, by brightening the brighter parts and just along the veins, just adding a little bit of darkness on it. And just bring a little bit of darkness on just the bottom of the seat, or of the lat of the seat, and that. Slip back again to the white and maybe just take another bit on the seat there. So that's how I would dodge and burn with an 50% gray layer on overlay mode. Control 0 brings it back out to screen size. So you can see I'm clicking it on and off here with the eye of the layer, and you can see particularly on the ground where there might be no harm to brighten up a little bit actually on the pathway here. So I'm going to make my brush much bigger, and I'm going to white as well. I'm just going to bring a little bit of brightness in there and just in along there, just a tiny bit. That brings us into the picture. And obviously we can do that in any of the colors as well, as if we, for instance, if we wanted to deepen a color there, we could also use that. All right, so that's the dodge and burn. With most of my images, particularly in black and white, we'll always add a vignette. Now, the vignette, you must make sure is added to the background layer. So if you're happy with things, you can, flatten the layer. So you can go to layer and flatten image. Or you can go Control and E, quick way. I tend to use shortcuts. The shortcut is Control and E. So if I was going to add a vignette, this is how I do it. There must be dozens of methods. In fact, if you go up to your adjustments layer up here, you could do with this one, this one, this one, and this one, with the first 4 adjustment layers there. But I have kind of made a way of doing this that makes it customized every time rather than a general type of plan. And that's why I wouldn't add a vignette in RAW at all. I would do it out here. So I just go to my selection tools, and one of them is the lasso tool. So I'll just draw freely around that like that. And you see the beauty of this is if you had something that was fairly central and you want to vignette it, you could come in closer to it. Now, the vignette obviously is going to be outside that, so I need to select the inverse of that. And then I'm going to have to feather that to make that soften. Now, I know that my image is 16 inches wide at 300 pixels per inch. So it's actually 4,800 pixels. So that means then I can feather this a good bit and it will hardly even be noticed. So I'm going to feather that 250 pixels. That'll soften the edge there. So what I do next is I copy that, Control J, and that area that I'm going to darken is going to be on its own layer. So it's non-destructive. And I just change the blend mode to multiply, which doubles up on the darkness in the image. And there it is, on and off. Okay. Now, you can control that by going to the opacity and bringing that down. So what I tend to do is I bring it down to 0, and I start bringing it back up until I start to notice it. And if I've noticed it, I've gone too far. So I just come back a little stage and leave it there. And then I go Control and E to flatten the image. Now, to put on my frame or my border on my image, this is what I do. First of all, I add a stroke to it. So I go Control A to select the image and then go to Edit, Stroke, and normally 5 pixels and black. It must be inside or else it won't appear on the image. The blend mode is normal, the opacity is 100%. Control D, just about barely see that, but that's all you want. Now to make your border, you go to Image and Canvas Size, and I'm going to add 0.5 of an inch and 0.5 of an inch here. Now, this little anchor that's down here, if I click that, it means that the border is only going to go down in that direction. But if I click in the center part here, it's going to go in all directions, in other words, around all four sides. But the width is only going to answer Marty's question. The width is only going to be 1/2 inch widened. So it's going to be 1/4 inch on each side. Now, I send my images off to be printed by a professional portrait printer, portrait photographer. And so he does it on one of these massive printers. I think it can print up to 4 foot wide. So I always add a second stroke to my image. So I go Control A again, and I go Edit, Stroke, and that. And that means then that when he goes to cut my picture, after he's printed it, he can see this little 5 pixel line just around it, and he cuts either on that line or outside that line, and then I trim it the way I want it. So if you send it off to be printed and there's no stroke on the outside there, the printer may very well crop it back in here and you lose your border. So I just do that to ensure I keep my border. And my final job on any image that I'd be sending for printing would be to sharpen it. Now, we did sharpening in detail in RAW, but that's basically only, because we only did 1 pixel, it's basically only tidying up the RAW file a little bit. Whereas here we can, bring out a little bit more detail in it if we want to. So again, what I would do is I would copy my background layer, Control J, and I would go to my filter and I go to Other, and I go to High Pass. Okay, that gives you a gray layer. Now, if the radius is down almost at 0, you can't quite go to 0. You see nothing. So the way to sharpen then is to bring that up until you start seeing the image. Now, if you bring it up too far, you can see little white lines around the tree there, for instance. They're going to be halos in your image. So that's how you know somebody is over sharpening an image. So bring it back down, and again, start bringing that up only until you begin to see the image. So 1.7 or 2 is enough. I can't see the bench, but I can certainly see the trees. So if I go up to 3, now I can see the bench. So I just click OK, and just change your blend mode to overlay. Now, if we just go in close on something, we can, if we switch it off, you can see the difference. You can see then that the branches of the trees have definitely been sharpened, but it's over sharpened. So you can still control that by going on the opacity and bringing that back down, and just start bringing that back up again to where you start to notice it. And that's far enough. And then back out. And that's sharpened then to my satisfaction. Now, so if it's too sharpened, it means you can bring it back. And if it's not sharpened enough, the simple thing to do is to copy that. Control J copies a layer, and that will double up the sharpen that you had. So, you can go in both directions, but rarely would you be doing that. But it's an option that's there. And again, flatten your image, and then File and Save As. I never click Save, just click Save As, because it retains any other image that you have. If you have already got a JPEG of that, it'll save the other one. I don't need to save that for you. So before I do another image, is there any questions? And I don't mind what the questions are.
Is there any reason, Harry, why you keep flattening them intermittently rather than at the very end?
It was to avoid any complication there of somebody being on the wrong layer. I might leave it myself, If your computer's anyway slow, flatten. As you can see, the image here down on the bottom here is 40 megabytes, you know. So if there was another layer in it, it's gone up to 80. So you have that issue all the time. So if your computer's anyway slow, flatten. And that should sort it out. So I suppose if we're talking about processing a landscape, the thing was do most of your work in RAW, and then do the basic adjustments, and then try. And among the basic adjustments would be the detail to sharpen an image, and the optics, which is the lens correction. After that, then see if you can do any local adjustments, like with the adjustment brush or with the graduated filter. And when that's done, then have a look at your image from the point of view of maybe color, and see, can you change the colors in any way, either through the color mixer or through the calibration. And generally play around with it. I have this image done previously, and this is what I've done with it. So that's the one I did today, and that's the one I did previously. And it looks to me as if there's probably more detail in the grass here, and there's more color in that. But you know, that's the way. Every time you come back to an image, you may treat it differently. So that's landscapes, I suppose, as such. How am I doing in time, Bernie?
Oh, you're fine there. Hold on. Yeah, it's 5 to 9. You're fine.
Fine. Okay. All right. So look, what I'll do is I will go back here, and I have a portrait here, and I'll just show you what you can do with a portrait. This is a JPEG. I don't have the raw file of that there. So with a portrait, there's a number of things we tend to do with portraits, and we're always, unless we work in studios or are very careful, we find that we don't like the backgrounds that are on them. So how would you change a background in something like that? So first of all, you've probably heard it's a good practice to copy your background layer. Okay. Now, Photoshop has introduced a brilliant new thing called, well, sorry, they have developed it further brilliantly, the select and mask. So rather than trying to select this person here with one of our selection tools over here, which we could, let's do this, select and mask. Now, when we do this, we get it in what's called the onion skin. So if I just up that, there's no selection made yet. So if I want to make a selection now, we select a subject, and Photoshop knows that this is, will know this is a portrait, and it'll select the portrait. And it has become so good that it actually does a pretty good job on the hair. Now, that looks like it's finished, but we don't see it. So what? Let's see what it's like. Black and so that's the selection, black on white. Okay, you can see the hair is pretty well done. We can just have it on white. That's it on the onion skin, which is kind of the default one that comes in. You can have it. So I tend to check it myself, black and white. Now, if I go back to the image itself, the way we used to use it before was we'd go over to this brush over here, which is the, that's the selection tool, and this is the refine edge brush. And we would use this then to brush around the hair to pick up any faults that were in it. But Photoshop has introduced this directly here, and you don't even have to go to the brush anymore. So you click on that, and it will refine the hair, something extra. So I'll go back to my black and white, and it has that. Now, I need to move that. Okay, so now, so the reason that it has improved is that Photoshop has introduced this thing called color aware and object aware. Before this, it was all worked on object aware, and now it's working on color aware, which makes it much more effective. By and large, all you have to do after that is go down here to the bottom and see how do you want to output this back to your JPEG. And you have a number of options, but it's best to go with a new layer with a layer mask because it allows us to tidy up things. So we click OK, it comes in here. If I turn off my background, now we can see. So straight away, I see a problem there behind her head and a problem there. Now, because it's on a mask, masks are white and the hidden part is painted in black. So if we use our black, click on the mask, we have our black and we get our brush and we'll up the flow because we want to get things done completely. And let's zoom in on the nose there. And I brush that there. That'll get rid of that. Now my brush is soft, so I'm going to harden up the brush for the edge of the face and bring it down a little bit. It's a good policy to work with your image large and your tools small. Okay, we'll just go back over here and we will soften the brush for this and just enlarge it. And just get rid of that there. Now, and that tidies that up. Now, as I was saying, usually what we want to do with a portrait is to change the background. So we'll just browse back over here and see what have we got. We have a field there, we have scenes, it doesn't matter, we'll just pick the field, I suppose. If you're going to introduce something like that, it might be no harm to take the border off it. But I'm going to leave it on you just to show you what we could do. So we need to select that image, which is Control and A. We need to copy it, which is Control and C. And then we need to go back to our original image. Now, if we click Control and V, which is to paste it in, it'll go on top of it. Or we could go to this layer here and click on this layer and it'll go on top of that layer and consequently under the other layer. So that's what we're going to do. And go Control and V and it's dropped in there. Now I'm going to have to shrink this down because the portrait was quite small. So if I go Control and T, which is the transform tool, I can move that around and you can see that image, my default size and my default philosophy in photography is an image is really for printing eventually. And if it's going to be printed, it should be printed at maximum size, we'll say for our club, 16 by 12. So if I'm doing an image, I would always try to do an image so that it will actually go to 16 by 12. And quite often I will drop an image if I feel the quality isn't good enough to be printed at that size. So the background image is quite big. It's a 16 by 12. Obviously, the front image is not. We can check the size of it in a minute. So the more I bring it, now if I bring it down too far, I can see my border. So with the new transform tool, by pulling any corner, it keeps it in proportion and brings it out there. If you hold the shift button, you can just move it whatever way you like. And then click OK up here and get rid of that. Now, so now we have a new border in the, or sorry, a new background in there. So I suppose it's the first step towards making your composites. And so that's how you do it. Now, some people like to have just a color background. If you wanted to have a color background in that, again, just go on the layer that's just below the one you want to affect. So that's that one. And down here in the bottom of the layers palette, we have these adjustment layers. Now, I tend to use my adjustment layers from up here, but the first one here is solid color. So there's black in behind that. There's red in behind it. There's blue in behind it. So you can pick whatever color you like. And obviously you can gradate these colors and things like that. So that's a matter of choice. And I think the darker it is, the better. And quite often as well, just from the point of view of information, if you do put in a background that is dark or a background that is fussy, it tends to hide any problems that there might have been with hair. But Photoshop has come a long way in the last 2 years in hair selection, really good. So that's it. You can have a color one, or you can have a totally different background. Okay. Now, any questions on that?
Guys, he's all on mute, or?
I think everybody's stunned.
Stunned?
Yeah,
Well, I would have presumed, Marty, it was that you knew this already.
Well, why would you need to teach it if we knew it already?
I don't know. Keep me busy in a Tuesday night. Okay, so if we're happy with that, and Bernie, if you want to, I can write some notes on these and email them on to you. No problem.
Oh, that would be sweet.
Yeah, and you can distribute them down. Okay.
Yeah, that would be sweet. Appreciate that, Harry.
You may have noticed, Terry, as well, that this Zoom session is being recorded.
That's okay. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
I think the Camera Club will put it up on a link to the recording on their website.
That's all right. No problem. All right, so I'll get rid of that one. I'll do one final thing for you. Among the things I do a lot of is flower photography. And I don't know if any of you know a guy down in Kilkenny called Dennis O'Reilly. Anybody know? No? He is a superb floral photographer. He only shoots the flowers in his own garden or his neighbor's gardens. And he's got his distinctions on flowers. And I went to school with him. So I was chatting to him there about 2 years ago because he just had this beautiful background on all of his flowers that, that gelled beautifully with the flowers. So I was asking him how he did it. And this is what he did. So let's presume you have your flower is already processed. So I won't do that. So you have your flower image. And what he has done is he's managed to create a background that will be complementary to that. And this is how he does it. He copied the background layer again, Control and J, okay? And we will unlock the background layer because we're going to use that. If your background layer is locked, you can't move it around. You can't add masks to it or things like that. It's tied up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch off the top layer, and you don't notice it because it's also the flower. And I'm going to change this one here so that we can come back and readjust it. So I'm going to make it into what's called a smart object. And when a thing is a smart object, it means we can work on it with a filter, and we can come back on it again and continuously until we're happy with it without having to redo the whole image. So one of the ways of creating it into a smart object, a simple little way is to go up to filter. This is my preferred way, is to convert for smart filters. You have other options. When it is a smart filter, you'll see there's a little icon on the bottom right-hand corner of the layer. Another way of doing it would be to right-click on the layer and say, you get the option there, convert to smart filters. Or there's a drop-down menu there and you can convert to smart object. So there's at least 4 ways of doing it. All you need to do is learn one. Now that it is a smart object, we can use a filter on it and that'll become a smart filter. So I'm just going to use the blur filter on it, Gaussian blur. And this is when there's no blur. Now what we're looking for is a background that'll be complementary to that flower. So if I push that way up along there and just, you might think that's, way over the top. Now if I switch my flower back on, you don't see it yet. So we've got to do something with the flower. We've got to select the flower and get rid of its current background. So how do we select the flower? Well, our selection tools generally tend to be over here. We could use the lasso tool, probably the hardest way. Any magnetic lasso tool would go around that and trace it. But probably the easiest one would be the quick selection tool. And any tool you have options up here on top. Usually the first option is a single selection. The second one is multiple selections. And the third one is to take away selections that you didn't want. So I'm going to click on the second one and just bring up my brush, as we call them, a little bit. That's with my bracket keys, my right bracket keys. And all I got to do is just boom, pull, done, 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 done. And that's why it's just called a quick selection tool. Okay, now sometimes you'll get mistakes. Actually, there's no, oh yes, I just see, it mightn't be quite as good as you'd like it to be. See that little area in there, it should be in. So make your tool small and go to the minus part up here on top where you have the options and just very gently push that in. And push that one in, just a little, just nudge it, and that'll slip in there. And that one there could be pushed in a little bit. It might go over it, but Photoshop can tell where the edges are. And we didn't do the stem. I suppose we should do the stem. So I'm going back to the +1 again, and I'm just going to drag up along the stem here. Now, sometimes, you know, when something is as blurry as this, it can go out of control. So again, I just need to make that a little bit bigger and push that a little bit out to the edges. Okay, not too bad. And it just needs to be pushed out there just a tiny little bit. Take it gently, because if you push too quickly, it can just jump. And I'd be happy enough with that, I think. Now, so all you got to do now is just add a mask to that. So I should be up in the top layer, by the way, top layer. And add a mask to that. So down here on the layers palette, beside the effects, that's our mask there. And immediately it'll hide. And bang, you're done.
Oh, nice.
And now you have a complementary background. That might be overdone. If you think it's overdone, all you got to do is go back over to your layers here, and where we made our smart object, you see smart filters and you see Gaussian blur. Double click on Gaussian blur and it opens it up again. And you can bring that blur back. And say, well, maybe I'd prefer that. And then you click OK. And then you've had a look at it and you say, no, I'm not happy with it. I'll click it again. So this is the whole idea behind the smart filter, that it's constantly accessible until you decide to flatten your image. So if you're heading back towards what was there. So what we're looking for is something that'll be complementary in color. So click OK, and there we go. And obviously at the end, what you would do is you go to layer and flatten image, and then you save your image, save as, not that one, because that's the image as it is. You can leave the same name on it, but I usually add something like A to it. And then
well, if you leave the same name on it, it's going. If you leave the same name on it, it's going to overwrite the original, isn't it?
Yeah. So what I did was I added the letter A to it with the same name and add the letter A, and then here it is in beside it. Okay. So now we have 4234 and 434A. So, and obviously, if I didn't bring in the raw file into that. If I had my raw file there, it'd be there as well.
Yeah.
So they're all kept beside each other. So things like that flower image there, for instance, that rose there is, I'll go back one step, is that rose there, cropped and corrected and etc. You know, so the whole idea is just have a bit of fun with your photography. That portrait, there's a simple little thing. That's adding a new layer to it, the way I showed you. Instead of putting it into the background, put it into the foreground, put it on top.
Yeah.
So simple things like that. So that's all I have to show you, unless you have questions. I have no. So any questions whatsoever that you like.
Harry, that last image you did there on the flower, you did it on a JPEG. Could you do the same thing on a RAW?
No.
No.
Because you'd have to process your RAW file and open it up. And it could be a JPEG or a PSD file, or it could be a TIFF file, but it couldn't be a RAW file. Okay. Because you can't open a RAW file in Photoshop. It will automatically open in Camera Raw. Oh. And obviously as well that in a RAW file, you can't use layers. And I mean, that's the problem, say, with using Lightroom. You can't use layers. You can't use smart objects. You can't, well, you can dodge and burn in RAW and in Lightroom, but it's not that easy.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I'll stop sharing, and if you want to have a chat about something, I've no problem.
Oh, good one. So guys, Harry's here now, question and answers.
I'm just wondering, Harry, what version of Photoshop are you using?
The very latest, it's 2020 or 2021, I think it is now, yeah.
So some of the tools might not be available in, say,
well, if you're in 2013, definitely not.
15,
no. 15, no, they wouldn't. There'd be quite a lot missing, Marty.
Yeah.
If are you getting it on the cloud? On Creative Cloud?
Don't ask.
Don't ask. Okay. No. If you are, I mean, just set it for updates and.
Yeah, I must set that up. So, Harry, do you have Facebook where you pay monthly for it and you get the updates? Is that what you do?
Well, you have a thing called Creative Cloud. I'll just go back and share my screen again, okay? And I'll just show you where it is. Now. So if I just close that down there and that down there, down here, I have a thing called Creative Cloud. So if I open up that, you know, you pay for these apps on a monthly basis. You can get it for as little as $12.99.
Yeah.
So you get Photoshop, Bridge, Lightroom, and Camera Raw for $12.99, and you can just check. Oh, look! I see there's updates available now. There's a new update for Photoshop and for Lightroom, and there's an update available for Camera Raw, which I must obviously do. I'll do as soon as this is over. Just by the way, Marty, you might happen to have some of your tools.
Yeah.
There, but you mightn't see them. So if anybody has Photoshop and you think there are tools there that you haven't got, go over to your toolbar and you see 3 dots here. Click on the 3 dots and it says Edit Toolbar. And when you edit a toolbar, you get a list on your left-hand side of all the tools that are visible. And on the right-hand side, you'll get the tools that are not visible. So look, for instance, if I put, and all you can do is you drag them from the right to the left. I've just moved a rectangular marquee tool and I just say done, right? If I go over here, I don't have a rectangular marquee tool any longer because it's in the hidden, it's in the hidden side. So I just go back into my edit toolbar and over here this, and you see they all have letters with them as well. So I can see that M is on this one. So make sure you put it in with the M bunch and it'll be in the right section. And that's now back over there again. So that's where you find out if your tools are there. And a few updates on Photoshop have put tools in there and they haven't put them in here. And I would have been missing for a while until I copped on where they were.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the older versions of Photoshop, they have the basic tools that you can work on, and it's good practice.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they certainly have. Yeah, they certainly have. Now, what did among the ones that don't have now is where is it? This one here called the Object Selection Tool, which is a great tool. It again, we just opened that image again. So the Object Selection Tool, you click on that one, and this one is in about, I suppose, a year and a half now. And you can choose it as a rectangle or work as a lasso. And all you could just draw around something like that and sit back. And you can see it's just churning over. Photoshop is figuring out what's the object. Bang, done. Okay, it's missed a bit. So now I can go to any of my tools. You go to any selection tool you like, quick selection tool, and you can finish that off. So that one is there. All right, and at the same time, you can, every time you use that one, the object selection tool, you can use it as a rectangle as well. So you just simply draw a rectangle around that. And you say, well, how the hell does it manage that? But it does, bang. It's going to be superb. So that's new.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the really good new ones in it. The content-aware fill is another new thing. And I suppose, oh yes, the really good one is the sky replacement. Edit sky replacement. And that's so simple. That alone is worth having Photoshop for. So there's a raw file. Sorry, there's a JPEG with a sky in it. You just go to edit.
You have your own skies.
As long as you have your own skies, yeah.
Yes.
So you just click sky replacement. Now, what you can, it automatically looks for the last sky that you had. And it will pop that in. So I just have to give it time to do that. Okay, that's done. Now, that is my own sky. Now, and I have a few other skies popped in there. Okay, and if you want to pop in your own sky, you just go to this plus sign and browse to where your sky is and pop that in, and it'll come in there. So that's a great new feature. Another new feature then would be in the select. The select and mask is another one. There's also a select sky there, which is just as good as that one. The beauty of that one is when you select the sky, you're only selecting the sky, you're not replacing it, which means you could select the inverse and then, as a result, process the foreground, separately. So, yeah, just lots of things like that. Right.
So, Harry, can I ask a question there? Probably sounds really stupid this now, but I took a picture recently of my niece and her family, and there was the sky was just completely gray, So I can do I have to go in and when you said the sky?
All you have to do is open your image, and go in and go to edit, and down to sky replacement.
All right.
And that's all. Oh. And then if you want to put in your own sky, I mean, if it's a family portrait, you're not too fussed what kind of a sky it is, as long as it's a good one. Exactly. And that dialog box opens up. You can pick the sky. And if you want to pick your own sky, just go down to where it says plus and click it in there. And it'll work like that. That's simple.
So Photoshop has presets, guys. Is that what you're saying?
It has preset skies. Yes, it has. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has introduced into the raw processing a lot of preset profiles and other presets as well for black and white and different types of color and that, which are well worth looking at as well. Which it's another day's work, really.
Yeah.
Harry, quick question. If you are
Yeah.
putting in your own skies, you're going out and you're taking your photographs, you've got a beautiful sky and you want to use that. So would you use it in JPEG format? Would that be the best to put it in as a JPEG?
Yeah, well, you see, Bernie, you're working in Photoshop itself, so you will be working either in JPEG or TIFF or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a raw file at this stage.
Okay, but it can be a TIFF, it can be a PSD?
Yes, it can.
Okay.
As long as it's a PSD that doesn't have layers in it, just a single file. Yeah, you can use it.
Yeah.
So then I just take my shot, I have it open on my screen, and then as a second image perhaps, and then just press plus, go to browse and put it in.
Yeah.
Or do I have it in a folder somewhere? Which would be
No,
easier?
you don't even have to have it open, Bernie. You just browse to find it.
Okay, great stuff.
Yeah.
Great stuff. So just pop it in the desktop on a folder and then pop it in.
Well, you can leave it on your hard drive or wherever you have it. It'll pick it up. Yeah.
All right.
Great stuff. Thanks, Harry.
So
Anyone else?
I think what you're hinting at, Harry, is that I should stop drinking the rum and actually start paying for my subscription.
Probably, yes, Martin, say so. Like it's relatively cheap, at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you can get that kind of stuff for 12 or 13 euro, it's great. It's great value. Fantastic value.
That's 12 or 13 euro a month.
A month. Sorry, yes, a month. Yeah, it's a month. Yeah.
But it's well worth it, and you'll have great crack.
Sure, when you think about it, Marty, it should only be 2 brandies. Or 2 shots of whiskey.
Brandy, we don't drink brandy.
I do. That's my
We
tip.
pirates drink rum.
Okay. All right, guys. In that case, if no one else has any other questions, we're going to let Harry go. But Harry, I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you very, very much for coming on. And I think the silence was not a sign of disinterest, but really a sign of, wow, taking it all in.
Yeah, amazing. It's very good.
Mhm.
Lovely. Yeah.
Very,
All
very
right,
good.
well,
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
very much. I'll chat to you again soon, Bernie.
All
Okay.
right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
All right.
Take care, Harry. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers. Very good.
Has Harry left us, guys?
He has, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
But Bernie, if you go into view and go into gallery view, you should see everybody.
Yeah, I do. But I don't see everybody. I only have a limited amount.
Oh,
Hold on. Oh, okay.
no, I assumed
Yes,
you were in.
sorry,
I assumed you
do.
must be in
I had
speaker view.
it on views. I had it on speaker.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
only saw
yeah,
the speaker. Yeah, sorry, I didn't even see that.
yeah.
I see, we learn something new every day. So guys, what do you think of that before we hand over to Marty for the thing?
Excellent.
Very good, yeah.
Brilliant.
Was there something there for everyone?
Yes.
Oh,
very
definitely.
impressive, but it's very hard to take it all in. I think I've got too old.
No. There was a lot to take in, Monica. I'm glad it's been recorded because there's no way I could absorb all that.
Yeah.
I'll have to do it a little bit at a time.
And
Look at the recording 10
probably
times.
send me some notes as well, and I can pass that on because sometimes you just like to read it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So if he sends them to me, then we'll pass them on.
Brilliant.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we'll
But-
hand over to
yeah.
Marty. Marty.
No, I think you're handing over to Joe first.
Go first, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Joe. Janie Mackel. One of these days I'll get this right, guys. Sorry.
I'll share my screen and play the slideshow, and then I'll hand over to Marty.
Joe's awesome.
Right.
Marty, you're able to put up the pictures on your screen then afterwards, aren't you?
If Bernie makes me co-host, so I can share my screen.
I can't do that.
You should be able to share your screen.
No, sorry, Dara, I think will have to do that.
Dara's skedaddled. Where is Dara?
Oh, he's there.
He's
He's
there.
not there. He's froze.
Is he incognito?
No, but are you not able to share your screen already?
I'm co-host now.
Yeah,
All right.
I should be able to share.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'll share my screen then for the slideshow, and then I'll hand over to you then, Marty. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sharing screen now.
Let it roll.
Yeah. Okay. There's only 20 files, so it'll go very quick. Okay. Just a second.
Okay.
I'll press play. I hope everything works.
That will.
Excellent.
Perfect timing.
Ah, nice one there, guys.
Could you hear the music?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's important. That's important.
Very good. Very good.
Perfect.
No,
I have a
Pat,
suspicion that a lot of the music that you play on these slideshows is your own music as well, Joe.
with my own collection, but it's not mine.
Oh.
No. I'm sorry for indulging my my tastes in music, but that's the way it's going to be until my position is taken over.
I like it. I like
Was that the before or after the outer body experience, Joe?
Yeah. It's a privilege of the job.
Okay, Marty.
Okay. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Because partway through that slideshow, I was getting a message up on my screen saying that my internet was unstable.
No, that's just
So it's
Joe.
fallen to me It's fallen to me this this time for some reason to be the judge. Whatever I say is just my own personal opinion. I don't claim to be an expert or anything like that. I was going to say I was disappointed at the low number of entries, but I can't say that because I didn't put anything in. I'm going to start with Deirdre's photographs, which I found interesting. Now let's just see if I can find the share button screen. I'll share screen button. That one, I think. Share. Yeah. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. I particularly like the colours in that one, Deirdre. And where do we go? How do I see the next one now? There. Oh, how does? Just give me a moment now. More.
Down the bottom, near where your cursor
Yeah,
is.
I know, but my my screen sharing buttons are down the bottom, so I'm trying to move them to the top. Ooh. There we go. There we go. Sorry. These two did. What I particularly liked about those was the fact that you didn't try and soften the skin or anything. Thought it was very brave of you. I don't know which one I like better, the color one or the black and white.
Like that.
I'm assuming you put your camera on a tripod and a timer or something for them. Did you there? Is Deirdre there?
There, I think.
Yeah.
That's a lovely shot. I like that.
Yeah. Did you have your camera on a tripod and use a timer, Deirdre?
She might be muted, she.
Might be muted, yeah.
She's not muted, I think. But I can't. We can't hear her. No, your microphone's not working, Deirdre. Never mind. Bernie's. I'll look at Bernie's next. If I can find her. There she gets. There she is. No, I'm sorry. I'm having difficulty.
You have to share the screen again, Marty.
Yeah. You only put the one in, Bernie, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah. I did like this one.
We have it.
There it goes. What I liked about that one is that you weren't looking at the camera. And although there's a lot of negative space maybe to the left of you, it's not negative because you're obviously, to my mind, thinking about maybe going to Florida or the Caribbean next year if the lockdown starts.
As the title says, it's all waiting to be explored again.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. Yeah, I did like that one. I know I didn't put any in, but I did have plans to do some, and I was planning to do ones that weren't just a picture of my face looking at the camera or anything like that. And I like the fact that that's what you did there. I also like the nice muted colors in it. Joe, also locked out but in lockdown. Unfortunately, took that photograph 8 years ago.
Love that one. Yeah.
I like that one, and if I skip forward, there's another one there that I think is the same image, Joe.
Yeah. Just
Yeah, yeah. And I like the way that you showed how, you know, you could work with one image and you can present it in different ways.
That's right.
I don't know. You probably got.
I don't know. You probably got.
Oh, I'm getting echoes now. You're probably going to get annoyed with me now, but
Not at all. Not at all, Marty.
I would have thought of maybe cropping it like that.
Yeah.
Just that long lead-in didn't seem to be necessary to me.
Yeah, that's one way of doing it, Marty. Yeah.
Yeah. Right, where are we? Come out of there. And I want to look at, I noticed Mike. Oh, just out of interest, Joe, is that a single image that you've played with, or was it two separate images?
No, single image. That's taken with a slow shutter speed of maybe 1 second and rear camera flash.
Yeah.
Flash goes off at the end of the exposure. You just move in between further along. So you create two images into one.
Yeah. Oh, so
it's a slow shutter speed.
Yeah, so it was one shot with the camera, but you moved your head partway through.
Yes. And then the flash captures the last movement.
Yeah.
Puts it together.
Here's another one that I like because it wasn't just a normal self-portrait, not just a normal portrait. Joe was, Mike was actually, I don't know whether he's genuinely shaving or whether he's just pretending to shave. It was one that I thought about trying to shave, Marty. Yeah, it was one that I thought about trying to do for myself for this. Time and perhaps laziness just caught up with me. But one of the problems I have is that I don't use shaving foam. I use a shaving oil, so I wasn't sure whether it would have worked as well as that did.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Foam was ideal.
I think I need to be going the other way. Sorry. Yeah. I like that one, Robert. No, that was sort of the sort of thing I was saying, you know, a self-portrait. In fact, I think the presenter from last month actually said, be creative. So I like that one. And I also like that one. I don't know whether anybody else wants to say anything about any of the images.
Well, that reminds me of Vivian Maher was a very good self-portrait taker herself. She took an awful lot of self-portraits. If you ever look at her pictures, and that reminds me of one of the ones that she would have taken. So
yeah,
it's a really good one. That's my favorite anyway of them all actually.
Yeah.
That's your favorite.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Any comments on any of the images?
I find that very minimalist, and I'm a big fan of minimalist pictures, and that to me now is
yeah.
The best of them there now.
I'm just going to go back to one that
I like that.
I like that one. Go back.
The one with Mike with is that you, Mike, with the
headphones? Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked that.
I did submit that a couple of weeks ago under the heading of happiness, but it was in colour then, and I re-edited it in monochrome because that was something that Joe suggested. It might be good in monochrome, and it seems to work quite well.
Yeah. There was one, I'm trying to find it. That one of Anne's. Personally, I didn't like the shadow behind. And I'm wondering whether, Joe, you mentioned with that slow shutter speed one of yours that you used a backlight or something?
No, just a flash on the camera, basically, yeah.
Yeah. No, when I was looking at that, and it's something I've never tried myself, but I was wondering whether an off-camera flash behind the subject might have taken that shadow away.
It would have, or else step further away from the background. Move away from the background.
Yeah,
and the shadow would be cast further away. Then.
Now that's just my personal feeling that that the shadow detracts from the portrait itself.
But it's not even...
Then. Did you experiment with more pictures?
Oh, I looked. The light was running out. It was on Thursday evening, and this was the last shot of the day. Trust me. I don't know how many I'd taken, and they were all rubbish. But it's not even sharp. Plus, I hate having trying to take a picture of myself. But
well, I wasn't going to say anything about the sharpness.
Oh, I would want to point out. I knew it wasn't sharp, and I was trying to find just natural light, but the day was not good for it, you know. And it was like I was going around the house looking for something, but it was just to have an entry, to be honest.
Why did you have your white balance set up there?
Pardon?
What did you have the white balance set at? Seems very yellow, a yellow cast.
Don't ask me, I have no idea.
Probably auto white balance then.
I don't know what it was, to be honest. Couldn't ask, you know, I haven't a clue.
No bother.
I don't know if it was that auto, I don't know. No, that's the color of the walls, maybe.
Yeah, I'd say it's auto, yeah. It's just, you have...
Yeah, it's auto, because that's the color of the walls.
If you bring it into RAW, you change it slightly if to suit
yourself. Yeah. I'm just looking at the properties here quickly, but it on my computer of the original file, but it's not saying what the white balance was.
Yeah, I wouldn't have.
If I opened it in Photoshop, I might something I might be able to find that.
Yeah, it's not that.
Yeah, sure.
No, I seem to have.
I like that you've got the catchlight in your eyes there, Anne.
Now, I suppose you want me to say which I think was first, second, third.
Yeah.
In the intermediate, I gave Deirdre third place for her self-image.
Which one?
Am I still sharing there?
No.
Okay, I'll share it in a moment. The self-image in color. That one. So I'll put that one in third place.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one.
Just see if I can move you all up so I can find my controls again. And in second place, I put Mike's shaving one. That one. And I gave first place to Robert for his shadows. Or his shadow, that one. Yeah.
Very good, very good.
Now in advanced, there were only 2 people put images in, and they only put 1 image in each. That was Anne and Bernie. So I gave the second place to Bernie for her that one. I gave Bernie second place for that one. I'm sorry, I gave Bernie first place for that one. Yeah. Sorry, Bernie. And Anne Doherty, I gave second place to. And if I was given a third place, or if I was able to give a third place, I would probably have chosen that one of Joe's.
See, I think that's,
Actually, if that qualified as a photograph taken in the past month, that might well have got first place.
oh, I think so, yeah. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Agree.
I think we might have to relax that rule a bit, huh?
Well, we are planning to, from January, to give, is it 3 or 6 months motivation themes in advance?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be doing that for the next session.
Yeah, so that may give people a better chance to be thinking about images in advance instead of just in the month. But of course, people need to stop being like I am and thinking about, oh, I must do something for the motivation, and then never getting around to it.
Well, that's why it's called motivation.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
But we have to adapt.
Right.
We have to adapt with the circumstances. So it may be it may help to relax.
Yeah,
we might
yeah.
get more pictures in. We might get more pictures in. That.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, does anybody want to say anything about any of the other photographs, or shall I stop sharing my screen? I took the silence as a no. So I'll hand you back over to the chair.
Thank you very much, Marty.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you, Marty.
Well done, Marty.
Good job, Marty.
So, but lads, I'm glad you all seem to enjoy this evening. It's always good, even when we're not talking Photoshop, just to get back and see human faces and have a bit of crack. That's always good. So don't forget now, motivation next month, or this month, should I say, shapes. Okay, all shapes and sizes. So just have the crack, have fun.
And we've got Christmas coming up, so there might be lots of interesting shapes around the Christmas period.
Throwing shapes for Christmas.
Yeah, you can throw a few shapes there now on the dance floor. Oh no, the discos aren't open yet.
Always look at other photographers anyway. That's what I'd always say. Always look at other photographers and see what they do. Copy them if you can.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. In that case, I wish you all a wonderful week. Stay safe, and we'll see you again.
And happy Christmas to everybody.
Happy Christmas to everybody.
Happy Christmas.
Many of them.
Yeah, Merry
Yes,
Christmas.
happy Christmas.
Sorry, there's no party this year.
And let's hope 2021 is a lot better than 2020 was.
Yeah.
We should look back at this year with 2020 vision.
Our next meeting is on the 12th of January. 12th of January.
But yeah, so our next one is
The 12th.
Is it the 12th? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
No, we'll be well over the pudding and the.
The hangovers will be gone by then. We'll be grand.
We might be back. When does the restrictions stop after Christmas?
When does what?
8th of January.
The 8th of January. So we might be back under level 5 lockdown by the 12th of January.
We could do, yeah, or if there's a higher one, we could be on it.
Yeah.
Don't even think about that possibility, lads. No, we're all going to keep safe, stay safe. Have a happy Christmas.
And you, Bernie.
Yeah.
Make sure Santa comes in some way,
Thank you,
shape, or
everybody.
form.
Happy Christmas.
It doesn't matter. Even if you just bring in a lump of coal, leave him out a biscuit and a cup of milk. Okay, guys. Listen.
Yeah. Good night.
Care. Have fun.
Nice.
Take care.
And
Thank you very
thank you
much.
to
Thank
Dara
you.
for setting everything up.
Thanks, Dara. Thanks, Dara.
Thanks a million. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Night, all.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.